Hello, everyone, and welcome back to VALORANT Challengers North America Stage 1. This is the first week of competition, but we're already on day 3, and I cannot wait to see more from our teams as they're proving to show that they are the next team to try and ascend up to VCT Americas. There's been so much VALORANT already today. I know you know what I'm talking about, but of course, we're going to have so much more in store, and I cannot wait. My name is Sierra Dawn, your host for today, and joining me on the desk, well, I have my girl Gompers, and we have Van Silly. Van, you were here yesterday. We got to see some good stuff coming out, and we got even more ahead of us.
I don't even care about talking about yesterday. How come you're going to say my girl Gompers and not have like a cool nickname for me?
Sorry,
my girl Van Silly.
My girl Van Silly. How's it going,
hey,
girl?
Let's go. What's up? Yesterday we had some great games, actually. We got to see the return of Nitro with over at M80. TSM had a great look looking at their series as well, but M80 definitely proved to be that strong team. And then that second series, though, I did like what I saw from Core and also TWAT. That said, I'm looking forward to see what they can bring up throughout this season because TWT actually looks very, very good as well, and they definitely proved me wrong.
It's development. It's development. So I'll definitely excited to see what's happening in further weeks. Gompers, you're no longer my girl because Vansley got jealous, but how are you today?
What's up? I'm here.
So
What's
you're
up?
telling me in this relationship that we have, you just broke up with me to get with another girl? That's kind of messed up.
No, that's not what okay, VALORANT, Gomps, it's been a fun week. I know you've been watching. What are your impressions so far?
Today's drama on VALORANT Challengers.
My impressions so far are pretty good. Honestly, I do have to say I am very impressed with the collegiate team Winthrop. I put them as my pick'em for a reason. I think this team has a lot of quality to their name, especially with names that you probably haven't seen in Challengers just yet. I mean, it's the first collegiate team to really push themselves up to that level, but Winthrop definitely kind of put some heavy pressure in their games. Redux on Oxygen definitely killing it on that duelist role as well. I mean, obviously, so Redux is just a demon on site.
Yeah, and as I said, this is day 3, so looking ahead at the schedule, we've already gotten to see quite a lot of our teams, a lot of the big names that we've been looking out for competing so far. I mean, being able to see this Moist I'm Shopify roster, being able to see the return of M80, so many exciting things, but of course, we want to start thinking about today. YFP going up against Thinking Men, then Turtle Troop versus Glazers Vans. I think these are going to be some fun matchups ahead of us.
They're definitely going to be some fun matchups. Even looking at the results from yesterday, too, it kind of shows as well how VCL is not really top 3 heavy, if I could put it that way, anymore. Because when you're going into this season, you think it's really about that M80 Oxygen and Moist X Shopify. But you're definitely seeing that there's a lot of teams that are able to punch above their weight, and I'm hoping to see that from these teams as well. There's a lot of free agent teams right now and free agent players that, are grouped up together, are able to put some a heavy mark against tough oppositions, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and of course, I want to start talking about our first team, because when you're talking about the players punching up, I feel like, too, what's really nice about Challengers is we get to see different players kind of thrive and maybe try and get picked up. So going ahead to focus a little bit on our first matchup here, YFP, and this roster that we have ahead of us. This is one that definitely we can see types of pickups happening from. So, I mean, we've already had quite a bit of shuffling, Gompers, to start things off, and I don't think that's necessarily stopping when we're looking at YFP ahead of us.
No, YFP, listen, they've been doing some reform work. They've been trying to find, a good way to put Thief in. Thief actually one of the newest introductions into this team, and I do believe that's with a replacement of Moose. Of course, with Moose being out of the team, there is that new addition. So what I'm curious about is how this is going to work. It's such a late change to a roster as strong as this one that managed to qualify up into that main challenger spot. The question is, what is going to happen here?
Yeah, there's definitely going to be some questions around, not necessarily role changes or whatnot, because I think that Thief could still play a pretty decent controller role for this lineup, which would be perfect for, example, Moose, Rupert to be joining a new team right now. I think it's Cloud9, but Thief could definitely have, I know him under the Reyna days, but he definitely has been flexing through a lot of different agents throughout his career right now, grinding in a challenger scene, and I think he's a pretty decent Viper, and I can't remember, I think I remember once or twice he's done some Cypher, if I remember back then as well. But it's going to be quite interesting to see how it fits into YFP now. Although YFP still looks very good. I mean, if you're looking at this roster overall, Penny seems to have like some sort of resurgence coming out with a vengeance since his last team over at version 1 that you remember over at the tier 1 scene. So I really want to see YFP make a mark in the challengers to start the game and start the day and start even the split very strong.
This game, like the highlights that we have here, even just up against the Glazers. So it's already nice that we get to see some of these teams face off against each other. That won't be a matchup we get to see. We're a little bit down the line, but of course, YFP being one of those teams that make their way through the open qualifiers. They got that second spot in that very first OQ. So they have a little bit of that synergy here, Gomps, now. They've already been pushing up through together, so I'm excited to see them build upon that.
No, I genuinely am too. And especially since it's so great because the storyline between these two teams is they both fought for their spot here in the open qualifiers. And you have not only that, but like they're also coming into this with their head held high. They've had those warm-ups. They've had the chance to show their potential. And now they're just implementing that even more into the main stage.
And what's exciting too, when we're looking at Challengers fans, is we kind of get a mix of what we kind of expect coming out from the teams. We can see kind of more defaulty things. We can see that usual, or we can see teams kind of put a little bit of a different spin on things.
That's right. And when you're looking at YFPs, more specifically on their agent compositions going into challengers, where I like to commend not only the changes that they've done that still slots Thief well in the roster, it's also that they've been thinking outside of the box. When you think towards the end of 2023, most of the meta has been almost kind of like figured out until this whole nerf came through with Skye, and then some players or some teams wanted to just keep Skye in the lineup for now because they didn't have too much time to really work the lab and try things out. Whilst you have a team like YFP that wants to go through crazy agent compositions, for example, going double controller with the Harbor that currently is being used by Loud over in Madrid for Masters, and they're still putting up good numbers and victories into that. So what I like about this too is that they did these type of agent composition changes throughout open qualifiers. So they're not afraid to like try things out. And if it doesn't work out, they were going to qualify to the VCL. So I love how you're kind of like min-maxing and trying to take advantage of what was the norm for 2023 and then come up with these different changes as you see right now. These off picks that actually gets, look at that, 100% win rate that they've done so far on Icebox and 100% on Split as well. And this is just because you're able to just counter, for example, a KO versus a double duelist over on Split, or just how you're able to scale and retake with the double controller on Icebox when a lot of teams are trying to play lineups, right? So this is very well done on how they were really trying to counteract against all of their opponents now. But you're starting to see these compositions pop up a little bit more. So it then comes down to, can the other teams now counteract, and are they used to playing this type of composition against this type of composition?
And when I'm looking for it from YFP2, it's I love that they haven't stuck to quite that same default that you would maybe expect from a team that's trying to, you want to make sure you get through that open qualifiers. You can't really afford not to, right? So I want to see kind of how they're going to be standing up, and if they're going to be a team that tries to always stay a step ahead as everyone else is going to be getting more used to playing against that sort of composition, or if that's something that maybe they're really comfortable with and we won't see anything too much from them from there. But I feel like today might be a nice little indication of that. But of course, we have to start talking about their opposition here and talk a little bit more about Thinking Men, because when we're looking at this team, this was the second OQ that they qualified through. And the Gompers, when you say you're getting in at that last second, I mean, this is definitely a squad of talented players, but they had to fight to get to that spot.
They fought hard. And listen, it doesn't just show in the performance that they put in the open qualifiers. It also shows in their daily routines. There was a tweet that I saw that I thought was really interesting about Anderson. And it was actually, this was Anderson's schedule apparently throughout the entirety of just playing, I assume throughout, open qualifiers and just playing Val and really trying to work in scrims. They wake up, work their 8 to 5 shift, go into hours and hours worth of scrims and server time, and then right straight to bedtime to do it again. It's the dedication and it's the hard work and the effort that is really put into this team that shows Thinking Men deserve to be here.
Yeah, and even on top of that, too, I think they went through a slight roster change going into this VCL as well. Lear, as you saw in the highlight reel with the rest of their team throughout the open qualifiers, is now being replaced by Screwface, where Screwface also, I mentioned it yesterday as we were closing the stream, I want to see the redemption arc of Screwface because he's probably one of the nicest guys that we currently have here in Valorant overall, not just in Challengers, and he deserves a spot at some point, and deserves to be looked at for hopefully a spot to move up into partnership at some way, shape, or form. And now he's also in another situation where he almost got signed into VCL, did not, and still was like, screw it, I'm still going to give my 100%, play with a new team, gets it with Thinking Man, and he brings a lot of value to this roster because not only does he have IGL experience, but also the fact that he's under the EG reserve in the past. I mean, he's the 6th man. He held up the trophy, for God's sakes, for champions. He's literally a Valorant champion, although he wasn't playing in a server, but he's definitely the type of player that has learned a lot from the tier 1 teams and learned a lot from EG that can bring it a lot in terms of meta changes or adapting to these type of compositions, for example, that YFP is pulling out in VCL.
And like that type of experience cannot be understated when you're looking at Challengers, because we have so many different players from so many different walks of life. Someone who's maybe a little further along but dedicated to sticking with their team, people who have fallen out of tier 1 and trying to make their way back, or young hopefuls that are looking to try and make it way there for the first time. So I'm really excited to see that redemption arc for Screwface, and if we can see maybe a little bit of that fire behind him today. But of course, talking about today's series, we have to look at the map picks and bans ahead of us, and we're going to be starting off with an old favorite. I think it's safe to say at this point, Gompers, Lotus to kick things off. I've seen so much Lotus the last little bit, I swear.
I'm honestly not surprised. Like, Lotus has been pretty fun. I feel like not only for us to watch, but also for the players to play in. It gives so much range as to what agents you can pick. It really isn't about what agent works best. It's about what agent works best with the compatibility of your team, the overall playstyle that you want to go for. And I think Gecko, I've seen, has been implemented pretty heavily into Lotus, which I'm hoping is the case today as well. That's something I really do want to see out of, whether it be Thinking Man or YFP. But depending on what that composition is, we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, when you're looking at Lotus, it's pretty much become a staple right now to the current map rotation, just because you kind of have a map with 3 sites where it kind of replaces Haven, but also adds a little bit of more default type of play style, or a little bit more meticulous map scaling as you currently have it from like Fracture. So it's kind of like a mix of both, where you can really play with the mines, and those good IGLs that are good at mid-round calling would love to take advantage of this type of map to take the advantage of winning the map for them. And if you're looking at Thinking Man, that's their map pick, right? They went 9-1 so far throughout the open qualifiers up to now to actually, have their... It's actually quite surprising that YFP let that float against them, but I guess YFP has something cooked up against Thinking Man and are not afraid of playing this veto that we currently see in front of our eyes.
It's been a little bit since the qualifiers, so I wouldn't be necessarily the most surprised if teams have been able to try and maybe figure out a couple of the maps that were a little bit weaker for them in the past. So I'd be intrigued to see with Lotus what they have. I also love that we're going to bind after, I feel like, with YFP, just in general, how they play, fans. I think bind should be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, they might be playing something a little bit more standard, maybe a chamber in there, here and there. But if not, you have a roster within YFP that still has a lot of firepower. As I mentioned before, they have that roster with their resurgence of Penny. Bones is a great controller player, another prospect that a lot of eyes are, I would like to say, are on this player as well, to try to get scouted out potentially for something bigger and better than VCL for now. I'm not going to say bigger and better than YFP, because they could be the team, with the way that they're thinking currently outside of the box and trying to create their own meta, to be the team that might be able to make it to playoffs for Ascension, right? I don't want to discount that away. As you've mentioned here, Sierra, there's a lot of opportunities here for these players to prove a point this time around for this year, especially now that we've gone through we've gone through our inaugural year, last year of partnerships, and now you see what you're playing for the glory of playing in LA, or the glory of playing over an EMEA or Pacific, and what that's like. So there's going to be a lot of drive behind these teams.
Yeah, I'm not too surprised either with the pick coming through from Icebox. I've seen that is, I wouldn't consider it a favorite for YFP, but definitely the best map that they've played so far throughout the duration of what this year has been. And honestly, if it's Sunset versus that, Sunset, not the best map for Thinking Men, but you also don't really want to risk that probability. So going with that comfort pick, sticking with the Icebox for that third map, under the circumstance we do go. But we've been seeing a lot of third map games, so I'm not so sure.
Especially too when we're looking at the fact that these two teams did make it through the qualifiers. It'll be interesting to see if one is well clear cut ahead of the other at this point, but I think that there was a lot of really good talent in the qualifiers. There was a lot of good players that didn't quite make it through the qualifiers that have then been picked up from a team later, like, wait a second, we can't quite leave you behind. So I think that this might be one of those series that does go that 3-map distance. And again, with these, the fact that they are open qualifier teams that made their way through Vans, again, I'm not looking for that brilliance right out of the gate. If we get it, fantastic. I will hype these teams up till the end of time. But I'm looking for, again, that good foundation.
Exactly. I think it's good foundation on top of new stuff that both teams are cooking, right? Thinking Men literally utilizing their name into their strat book, because when we go back to that map pick that we were talking about on Bind, I think if they're still going to keep the same composition, they have a Euro in there as well. So they're also changing their own type of play style, how they're approaching certain maps. And I do agree with Gompers. I think on that first map, we're probably going to see some Gecko in there as well. And if we get to Icebox, if we actually get to that third map, there's going to be that double controller that we were mentioning before coming out from YFP. So I think today, if anything, it's going to be a matchup between two teams that are really trying to define their own play style and what makes them comfortable to in their own Valorant play style so far. It's not the cookie cutter, oh, let's just play a double controller. Oh, wait, the sky's nerf, let's just go with a fade or something like that, right? So I'm loving what I'm seeing that these two teams are working with, and with the coaching staff that they have around them, that this could be a very interesting game. We might get a third map, but we also, I'm hoping that within these third maps, because we have so many discrepancies in terms of shifting away from this meta, that it's not going to be too one-sided over into these results that we currently see.
Well, maybe for what they're going to be playing today, they could also take a little inspiration of what's happening in Madrid right now. We're going to be taking a short break as our players get ready, so we can also peep the results of what's going on over there. We will be right back.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Super excited. Vans, we got a pretty exciting game ahead of us. Two teams that have worked their butts off in the open qualifiers. And who's going to lose this first game is the question.
It would definitely be a tough one to actually call out, but if you're looking at a recency bias, it's probably going to have to be YFP that loses his first map because of just the record that Thinking Man has been bringing out on Lotus most recently here through the open qualifiers, as we mentioned in the pregame. But again, it just really depends what they're going to try to bring out here, anything that's new, because you know, you have a great coaching staff behind YFP as well, where there's definitely some VOD reviews that's going through there. Gogi's probably doing extra overtime trying to figure out what they could do to counter what you have coming out here from Thinking Man. And Thinking Man not changing really anything in terms of their composition. They are going to keep this Gecko and also putting it on Screwface. And that is another big question, because when Screwface was joining this roster, will he try to take the role of that Jet duelist or a duelist IGL, and then take that away from Paint? But Paint is killing it on a duelist role, so I love that Screwface is going to stay as a main initiator right now, just a plug and play of what Lyra used to do. And Screwface also had experience as an initiator in the past, if I'm not mistaken, throughout his first games.
I think that's great, too, to have that flexibility, because I did think the Lear Initiator allowed everyone to really shine in a way that you can't see anywhere else. I feel like if anybody else had switched the role that they typically do play, it would have felt so out of balance. And with it such a late addition to having Screwface on, probably the best bet with that Initiator pick coming through. But I am excited to see that Gecko on Screwface, like you said, playing that Initiator previously. So there is that history there. Although with this team, not so much. But Screwface, this is their redemption arc, like you said. They are a legendary player. They're a player that I feel like doesn't get a lot of credit, and I think today is the day.
Yeah, and pay attention to what we're currently doing with Thinking Man with this composition as well. This breach, it's not often that we currently see a breach in on Lotus. It has started in the past, or it was trying to get initiated over even at EG in the past when Com was playing on a breach in one of their Americas games last year on Lotus, until finally they were figured out. Then they went into something a little bit more consistent. But Thinking Man putting Vix right now on this breach, it could do a lot of heavy slows if you're taking a lot of B control from this side on defense, which is exactly what he's doing. Like, he's taking the role here of playing BB door and playing the front B side, so he could delay and help out for trap plays on where the pressure is coming from. And to start things off, the YFP on the attack, that pressure seems to be coming from all angles. They're defaulting on both extremities to try to waste that utility early.
Wasting utility early, definitely the thing they're aiming to do, especially on Thinking Man. But the A site so heavily packed, they're just reading into a possible play at this point.
That's right, and reading that possible play, and it's actually quite interesting that the wall comes up on the attack side first for Jonah 6, because right now usually the lurk wall is on the A side, and it's not going to be working out too well, because on any type of tap on a door, there's a huge flood that's going to come out from Thinking Man. So you have to be quick on your toes. Hopefully what they're trying to sell in a fake on the C side is going to work, but after that first haunt, only the breach turns away.
Yeah, tons of patience from Thinking Man, though. This is something that they do tend to play very well into, is just waiting to read into the play. Yeah,
they're waiting because after this haunt, like, nobody's shooting it, so they're playing retake on this A side. The stack's probably on A, and they're doing a great job here for YFP to pivot back towards this C site.
They're playing coming down, rotation coming in pretty heavy. This is good. They're playing for the post plant. Tons of util already set down, though. Lots of util as well for Thinking Man to gain that entry.
And that's the thing. Lots of util. That's the key point, because they didn't use any on that A side. So there's going to be a lot of flashes. YFP has to be ready.
Already, Thief coming in pretty hot and heavy. The YFP finding lots of damage. Molly's making damage as well. And with the smokes alone, I mean, Controller's just pretty much gaining 100% of the site. Very, very easy place to win there if you're YFP. Yeah, everybody pretty much going down in what it looks like seconds. Screwface down. And that first round win over to YFP.
Yeah, and YFP, when we talked about the amount of util that Thinking Men would have here for their retake, there is still a lot that YFP was able to put on that spike to delay as much as they could. Surprisingly enough, though, they still played all towards that main C water site, where again, the fault line, the dizzies, the concusses coming out, and the mollies in from Thinking Men could have overflooded YFP and taken him over. But they were good around the fundamentals of that util after to trade things off and score first bloods. I think they got 2 first kills before Thinking Men actually got into the site. So that works in Grandeur, at least for now, for YFP. This second round for Thinking Men, they're trying to find dizzy information with that throw towards the air, trying to go for the trap play towards the front B side. And if they go for this tap, will the pivot come out here to try to open the door and fight the C side? You can see it. It's a double tap coming out from Physic. And Thinking Men, they don't want to move at all. They're waiting for this push. They're gambling no matter what towards the B side take.
Second time for a gamble too, but best game bet, honestly, just sticking together. The pistols aren't going to do too well in a round like this one. Huge disadvantage. Now, and here it comes. Yeah, Paranoia to start off, but actually that might work out pretty well. That's a free weapon in the hands of Thinking Men, so that kind of does give them a slight win condition there. And the question is, are they going to be able to really get past Penny? Seems like not too down. They're 3v3 situation with a pretty good number of weapons there.
And that only upgrades a Stinger and a Guardian. So well done, at least for YFP. Whenever they had that Vandal, it was away from where they're trying to pull that bait, right? As they rotate towards the B side, there's that alert from Bones. He's holding towards the B site, which allows for this to have a one-on-one, but he only had a Ghost. So it's still pretty decent so far for YFP to hold this A site, but quite expensive as Thinking Men are closing in.
Yeah, Vandal watching one of the choke points too just makes it harder for Thinking Men, luckily enough. Actually avoiding that. It's up to Thief at this point. Jonah having pretty nice vision on it as well, and a cross hold to be held for YFP.
Getting 3 weapons down, though, is actually quite nice for Thinking Men.
Yeah.
As we mentioned, yes, you're able to tap the orb and bait out that trap play that Thinking Men were trying to do towards that C side. Yet it still worked, right? They got utility to take one down towards that mound, and then also go for a 4-player chase down to take down the Guardian from Penny too. So if anything, you'll take that small dub for Thinking Men. You made it very expensive. Look at the buy that YFP has now in this third round, and denying the way that they did, you're not allowing YFP to get too much farming out of their bonus round or the anti-eco, that they're still far away from these ults. So Thinking Men could really start spiraling or snowballing some rounds in their favor on the defense with their own gun.
Oh, that's risky. Thief was there for the pick, but unfortunately, yeah, reaction time just not hitting as hard as they might have thought they would. But noise already being made down towards the C site. Although luckily enough, Thinking Men having a pretty good, decent defense here.
Definitely. I mean, the first contact, the turret, Thief thought that he was going to get a timing coming out through that mound to get the pick towards the entrance, but he dies right away, and that cancels out any type of pushes that they're going to try to do towards the C site. But at least Thinking Men, after that first contact, they rotated a lot of players towards C. They want to play the retake towards the A site. They want to leverage the breach as well, and use at least 1 nanoswarm to delay so that they could actually rotate on time. And as you're pivoting down to the lower numbers of this round, we're at 40 seconds left in the round and this door opening, this will be the call here for Thinking Men to just get ready to flood back with that immense amount of utility that they still haven't had. They barely used anything. They haven't really used any piece of util at all this whole round for Thinking Men.
Left.
They're keeping that for the retake, which I truly and firmly believe is the right decision. They can't give any close fights over to YFP. So Paranoia ready to be locked down.
Sees nade.
Yeah. Attempting it, and there comes the perfect timing for it as well. And the cohesion in that is absolutely beautiful. Paint goes down, and that leaves the race out of the picture, but how well is this going to work? Already breach util out, as well as Screwface having so much to play for and to testify for as well. Yep, the third, unfortunately not knocked down, but it's up to Penny to make this happen. Second one down as well. And that was a reload on the nade. Unfortunately, couldn't throw it in time, but a very good round. Despite the loss from YFP, though, Thinking Men 1-2.
And that's one thing they're going to have to start thinking, no pun intended here, for the defensive side of Thinking Man, is that you have to stop, or you have to start thinking that you don't have to go for like a ready 3-2-1, let's go for the set plays and the flood retakes, because YFP, all they did was wait for the first piece of util to come out, then they threw the Seize Nade on the top of Heaven, which actually got a nice pick. If they had better positionings on top of that, this could have been a great bonus round for them, for YFP, that would have shut down Thinking Man on that attempt of the flood retake. Thankfully, a little bit of the fault line to breach helped him a little bit more, and this round he's going to help with a huge fault line towards the A side, just to slow things down a bit. I think this is an immediate one-way smoke with a fault line. Showstopper already comes out, and it's a great read by Thinking Man to stay away from that radius, knowing that Penny had it available in round number 4.
And it's great too, tons of util just for stall potential. Keeping that rotation in pretty nice and heavy. Gecko, ultimate ready. So despite that take onto site, there still is a lot to play for here.
Oh yeah, they have Thrash to start things off, clearing out towards the door side. They're probably going to try to chime it with some breach flashes to get a little bit more information. But on the other end for YFP, they have 2 heavy ults right there, using the lockdown as soon as the Thrash comes out. Thinking they have to move quickly.
Oh, and they've cleared out the most important area as well. Extremities starting to be cleared, though. Physic makes a nice shot. Jonah out of it. Manages to clear things up. So now the extremity's gone. Thinking Men having to find another possible way to make themselves back on. 72 health left, though. Jonah to fight this so nice. One. Headshot down, 2 at 1v3. And very impossible time. Already have the essence there, so Vix backing off.
Yeah, and that's YFP once again thinking on their toes, pulling down that lockdown from that creep side just to cancel out the flood attempt that was coming out from Thinking Man from that Thrash at the baby door. And they tried to fight back really towards the rubble. You got a nice little entry coming out from Paint to dwindle down the numbers towards that rubble, but that counter Nightfall just puts you at a heavy disadvantage to try to come back against your opponents. You're deafened, you don't know where they rotated from, they know where you're coming out from, so you kind of like wasted or couldn't take advantage or the opportunity to fight back. So very well done for YFP. This is going to put Thinking Man back into an eco. A broken by Paint saving that rifle. I think it was saved by Vix, if not mistaken, and given to Paint, or I could be wrong out of that. But yeah, indeed, he still has a full armor and a classic. So he's fault lining to allow Paint to move forward, and they want to use their duelists, rather, to turn around over for their side if they can.
Yeah, they've attempted to clear through B side. Honestly, it might have just been a lot of noise being made to try to give into that heavy rotation. They're Thinking Men not giving too much over to the C side, but it's been that constant iteration of just wanting to play that retake game.
And also the idea that they want to try to gamble, right? Because they have this lower buy, so you have an opportunity to flood a little bit more. Or I have to stop saying flood at this point because it's not a retake, but you're trying to set up more utility to trap play on your gamble towards the A side. They do throw a Dizzy for information. The breach falls down towards the B site, but with that Dizzy getting nothing towards the A side, Thinking Man knows now at the late rounds the pivot's coming towards C. So Nanos to try to slow down already, allowing the rotate to happen. Paint still has this Phantom to work with. They can maybe go for this Dizzy paranoia to allow Paint to just start running in.
Like you said prior to, it's the pistols that makes things, I mean, honestly, quite a bit harder here. Still working themselves up. Paint is just running it down for Thinking Men. And honestly, a round that didn't look like it would have been great. That hero rifle there to slowly diminish the numbers. Screwface down towards the backside with Wingman defusing the spike. That was a perfect quick thrifty.
What a thrifty done there by Thinking Man. As we mentioned, that Dizzy and Paranoia was everything to allow Paint to just literally satchel in front of the water and drop 2. Instantly, the others could come from behind. They go for their traits. They have a Wingman for the defuse, so they could just focus on shooting and have more bodies, even if they have weaker weapons, to win some fights, instead of just having Paint try to do the hero play alone. So great utility being done. Now you see the value that they have here with the flood retake potential with the utility that they have for Thinking Man. But it has to come down to these moments where they have to fight a little bit better towards the beginning of these rounds. If they have the correct read and they're going head-to-head now against YFP, they just have to be able to gain that space that they're trying to take by using this utility behind it. But YFP's answering so well every single time.
This is a good response, though. Not keeping the patience with Screwface there to play some sort of tag team. And another one possibly biting the dust. YFP going down left and right. It's the split decision that they made. to play those 1v1s and maybe lure these out. That didn't really work out.
Yeah. I mean, you left the spike out towards the spawn.
I have
You
the spike.
spread out on a default, kind of like you did on that pistol round, and you gained some space. I mean, you got the same type of value on your lurk towards the C side. You got in the site on top of that 4 pick, but you couldn't really get behind it and try to rotate some players over to help out because they were so busy trying to fight towards the A side. So they were still trying to figure out where they could really try to pull out the rotation and the fakes because they gained too much space. But with the spike so far behind,
30
you
seconds
just
left.
lost all that space you gained.
Spike still in hand for Penny. They could have gone for the B site plant. Instead, feeling as though C might be the best bet. Tons of players just waiting for this moment to peek out to
10
stop
seconds left.
the plant. With that being said, that might just have to be the case. Scrubble cleaning things up for that 3-3.
Yeah, I just realized their name is Scrubblebub. That's
Scrubblebub.
they're trolling with me. Who is this? Nonetheless, though, 3-3 so far, and the operator comes out in the hands of Reform, which I kind of like at the same time because this round, Paint has a showstopper. So it's a great way to get in your face, try to scatter your opponents away on a temp of a hit, and then be in a great position with the operator that's currently being posted here towards the A side. And because Jonah 6 continues to put this wall out towards the C side for this mound control, they have so much less for an A side lurk, which allows the line of sight to be quite open for the operator to get some picks.
Oh, but Penny's working up. It's not too aggressive of a play, but still trying to figure out where this Killjoy util is. And that's 2 already punished on YFP. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate for sure. That's the beauty as well of thinking, man, of how you're trying to work for this B-side hold, right? The breach is going to help a lot. You're going to be able to get a lot of util to help out towards a B-side pinch. And with the wall that you have on the other side on C, there's not really much that you could do from a C side to help towards B. Because you still have to cross your own wall to see what's happening behind that mound. So that kind of defeats the purpose of you trying to do a little bit more pressure towards the C side, unless, again, you're able to cross over and open a door from B. It seems like that was potentially the game plan at first until they lost that spike on A.
Jonah knows they're alone. Actually trying to hit from behind to see if that might work out, which it might. Seeing Reform taking a patient play to see if they can find anything else as well. Oh, and this is perfect. Already 2 down. And it gives them an even better reassurance that, hey, maybe I can do something here. But the spike left over towards A, so they know at least the only thing they can do is just diminish these numbers.
You just got to save at this point for Jonah.
Yeah.
I mean, the last round, they had a lower buy where they could actually lurk around and try to do some more econ damage so that you could get into a full gun round this time around. But now that you've actually invested so much in round number 7 and you've lost so many players on the extremities and towards the front of B, that's the only thing you can really do here. Try to save this weapon, try to hide out towards the A side, maybe get a very last second kill now that Jonah is towards that staircase. But he's going to save it.
Yeah, good round, honestly. Through and through, the thinking men are definitely applying a lot of pressure that I don't think YFP was expecting. The C site wall, like you mentioned before, definitely was and still is slightly interesting. It doesn't even feel like they tend to go C regardless as well. Like, it's just there for the sake of that fake out.
Yeah, well, I mean, the fake out that they're currently using or the lurk wall that they're using for Jonah 6, there's been some times where they got into the C side because Physic is behind Jonah and they have a 2-player lurker towards the C side to take that control. But then again, that still dwindles down numbers on that A side control that you're trying to take. So YFP is calling this timeout. They said, okay, we realize now that Reformed is currently bringing the operator out, and he's also opping on the A side, and it's not really breaking line of sight of potentially having the op on C. So will they try to readjust their wall from Jonah on this Viper to really try to gain more ground as they're intending to do here for YFP with you? It's actually a more standard combination and a standard meta composition that you have for YFP, but you're currently cooking over with what type of wall you're trying to do here. Instead of using the Viper lurk on the A side, you're trying to just block line of sights and get potentially guaranteed orb all over at C. Yet you're looking at round number 8, they're still putting up the same wall. And you're still having the Viper with the responsibility to try to lurk up the way that she is. I think she's just using a Viper orb to try to cross over. But then again, after that, you're not getting more than that to get from Rubble.
Okay,
Interesting
quick
play.
start. Yeah, already looking good though. Kind of Paranoia working hand in hand to try to make that happen. Paint slowly working themselves up, and it works out for the best. Although tons of players waiting for the push to come through on YFP. Doesn't seem like it will. Already, tons of util being expended. I mean, an ultimate down now. Paint taking a third as well behind the backs of Thief.
It's a 2v2. They think site's open, but there's so much util from Reform to watch the alarm bot in that turret. So they'll be able to understand where the hit's coming from and what they're trying to do. That side of the timing on the orb coming through. Reform gets the big advantage for Thinking Men.
Yeah, that's gotta hurt. Op still in the hand of Reform though, so I'd be careful. Peeking angles like these seems like waiting more so on the outskirts of what the site is, though Physics still having the spike. A good position to be in.
Yeah, I mean, look at the position. Reform is even watching out towards the C-Link in case they crossed over until finally Paint takes that angle. But also, Physics gets the better timing. Still pivoting towards the A side. This is still going to be good for Reform to understand that you're committed towards this A side. But he's trying to retake with an operator when he could have picked up a weapon towards the B side. This would be very winnable for Physics.
And that was already spectacular information. Already given away where Physics is. They're getting very, very confident with the off. Smokey forward, Physics down, and Reform taking in the win. It shouldn't have happened. Honestly, holding the angle probably would have been the best bet. But of course, in moments like these, it's so much tense pressure.
Yeah, it's Reform just gambling a 50-50 that the rotate was going to happen towards that back of the site. Very well done to win that 101. A nice attempt on that 1v2 coming out from Physics, though. But you have to think back at the beginning of that round where the timeout was being called by YFP, and this happens. They lock down towards the baby door to push away any pressure on Rubble and B main. Therefore, everybody's just staying towards spawn or still leaning towards C. So you're trying to maximize value out of your showstopper. And he got only one kill out of it, but still got one kill with a Phantom and more ground gain for Thinking Men. So it was a nice little idea that YFP almost adapted to from a nice little clutch by Physics.
Oh, that's gotta hurt. Reform just knocked back out of their position. But that's such good util to use, though.
Yeah, I mean, that turret going on the top, right? You're just trying to make sure that if you're putting that up towards that C side, that turret spots it first, and then it brings up the shot of the operator, then the wall could finally come up, and then when your jig is up here on that C side and you shot your first shot, especially as a Killjoy, it's rare they're going to re-peek out of that when the Viper wall's up there. So it allows your YFP to really scale up for mount control, and I don't think they really want to try to pick up an orb yet. They don't want to give their positions away. It really comes down to what Jonah currently hears towards this A side. But they have a lockdown by Thief, which could be perfect, rather, for them to take the C site. And it will force Thinking Man to once again play the retake.
Yeah, they also have, at least at this point, Rolling Thunder to utilize for the retake as well. Let's see if Jonah goes down. Absolutely they do. So the lurk not necessarily working the way they expect, but a huge flank they understand here for YFP. There is potential here to take out more, though. Physics in a 1v3 and only having one piece of util to utilize may not be the best bet. Already knocked off by the util alone with a blast pack offsetting them, though. Reform slowly working themselves up with the op. Honestly, an op retake not the best. Yeah, already taken down one. Regardless of what I said, seems like one may be the only thing to work out. Tons of players there. YFP holding their ground. That being said, they know exactly where Bones is. Shots being heard, and a defusal to be made by the wingman. A great usage of the Gecko.
That is so unlucky there for for YFP. Jonah had potentially what could have been an easy 1v1 against Paint, but you're still playing against Paint. This man's grab walking into A main and wins that fight, and that's probably one of the most annoying ways to die to when you're actually having a crosshair placement against your opponent, a crosshair placement advantage against your opponent. That said, it allows a triple retake, a triple flank, which really puts the Fade out of position as well. Physics loses that fight. It nullifies the value that you have from the lockdown from Thief, because it gets instantly broken. So YFP, they probably had to play a little bit more inside the site after realizing the information that could have been gathered there by Jonah at the entrance of the A side instead of putting Physics alone all the way out towards the doors. Thinking Man, another position to really focus towards B control, and because taking B control towards the front, I think this is something that's new that you're currently seeing here on the defensive side of Lotus. It's not only on the Thinking Man composition, but even what YFP currently has in their comp is still very good to take control of front B so they could have some easy pinches towards the C side on orb taps. That said, probably why you have YFP putting this wall up on the C side, just to make sure that they can't really get punished if the door opens at the beginning.
Even then, I mean, regardless, KJ Util kind of giving away to what's happening. Thief with a nice backside angle. So you've already taken out your duelist and your initiator. Screwface being a main problem, as that Gecko as well. So kind of give some leeway here for YFP. Oh, slow work up there. This is not good. Vix in the crosshair of Physic, and Reform constantly with the op, somehow managing to hit the shots that were made. Now finally Controller taking some sort of advantage. They're covering up the angle off the form. Scrubble now gone and having to fight this alone. 3K from Bones.
That was close, and that was very close. But the other thing now is you saw the pivot coming out from Thinking Man towards that front B. That's why it's also very important to make sure that you're clearing out the front B site, though, because usually you have a KJ in the composition, placing up that turret and watching any type of pressure that could be coming from B main. And when that doesn't get shot down, it allows that killjoy to slowly scale up and get a better timing against you when you're opening that door. So that lurk that came through that you had from that KJ over at that B side, which is Thief here, it allowed for really the attackers to come out and retake and take over rather than the C side for the plant. Again, it puts Reform in a tough position. This is like what, the third time he has to try to retake with only an operator. So, I mean, my man, his team's got to try to do a little bit more here to give him a chance for these retakes and do a little bit more trades, because you have so much util in your own composition to fight back against the post plant.
Yeah. It's a lot. Honestly, I think, man, it's so weird, too, to not have the Viper in Thinking Men. It's like I'm constantly looking for a wall of some sort, but it's never there. So the whole entire portion of that definitely keeps catching me off guard. I think Vix is doing a good job, though, of kind of compensating with that double initiator. I know it... Yeah. And
sorry to cut you. Yeah, that's the thing with Thinking Men, right? You don't have a Viper, which then means you're playing a little bit more hard mode on defense because you're not breaking line of sight or blocking vision. We'll hold that thought a little bit later, though, because YFP off the gates are going with our showstopper in B and the opening.
Yeah, already beautiful opening coming through from Penny. Now actually giving themselves something more to really utilize. Paint going in heavy. Doesn't seem like it works out, though. Already taken down, so they've lost that sense of some sort of destruction within the site. The Viper Spit making things harder, though.
And that would be a call as well to just save. The only thing here is the wingman. I mean, he's trying to clear out towards Baby Door, and Nard is going to get lost outside the pit. They won't have more than that in the Mosh to hopefully flush some players out. And it works out. Anderson TP's in and gets the first pick.
Oh, they've taken out one, but regardless of that, the Viper Spit's still up. Jonah's going to be the main issue. Bones, doesn't matter. Viper Spit down, but as well as... I mean, the points there coming through, 6-5. YFP slowly bringing themselves back up.
Yeah, great job by them to just play outside of that pit after the TP came in by Anderson, and then they just fled back in their own pit. Thinking Man had no idea where the other players were at after they got the first pick. It was a nice attempt, but yeah, just to get back to the point where you're talking with that Viper, is that you're playing a little bit more hard mode on defense for Thinking Man because you're not denying early visibility for against your opponents as they're playing the attack. So they have more vision as well to play against you, which is potentially why you have this wall on the C side as well. So that YFP, whenever they want to decide to work towards Rubble, they could actually use better line of sight to play against Thinking Man towards the A side. But again, this is the first time they're testing it against the operator here, and Reform could still have great value because of that, because Thinking Man's been rich this whole half.
Face your fear!
In terms of vision, they're not looking too rich, though. Tons of utility already expended on the side of Thinking Men. Controllers taking up majority of what this site is, but the back site not cleared yet. Even that, I mean, the ultimate coming through. Now Thief picking a fight of their own down mid. That gives somewhat of a clearing, as well as diminishing some of those numbers, too. This might actually work out for the best, though. Already taken out before it can find any information. Beautiful play comes through, denying themselves any sense of vision, so Trouble goes down. That might be the next one for Bones to take, but again, a 2v5 situation. But now Screwface left alone. The util already gone. Absolutely nothing they can do other than get one tap by Thief. Zenny flawless.
YFP did a great job here to come back in this first half, because it was looking kind of grim of how they're trying to work that map here. 5 rounds, 1 in a row from round number 5 to 9 for Thinking Men until that timeout came through, and you finally saw maybe that game plan was trying to find ways to activate Thief on that late lurk. Yet you look at it here, they tried to go for the retake on this A side. Once again, still got caught by a fade C's on the top of A Heaven. So YFP, when given a chance to work that map and given so much space, they're finally able to take advantage of it since the timeout. Unfortunately, there's no opportunity for redemption for Thinking Men on the defense, with switch sides on the attack as we start things off on a 6-in scoreline, with Screwface looking to molly quite early. I think this is going to go towards the entrance of Baby Door. They're trying to flood into B behind the fault line satchel. They might real quick.
Oh, no, that actually held them off pretty well, though. Pain was ready to go in. With the decay being set, I mean, it kind of messes up their whole entire routine. Pistol round definitely being the most important, yeah. Wanting to give themselves the lead, though. Thief is just hiding, and nobody knows.
Exactly. He had to preemptively throw the molly to be like, I'm going to turtle in this site to site because I'm afraid you're going to rush, so that nobody's going to clear the box, or hopefully nobody's going to clear the box, so he could get a one and done. Instead, though, Thinking Men are pivoting back towards the A side, where there's really only a class, or sheriff rather, from Penny holding it back. There's 0 utility left. I mean, look at the side on the right. The smoke just got thrown out. You have literally no utility on the board right now for YFP, while Vic still has a flash to help the team.
All right, Penny's gonna have to post up here. This is like a battle of can I get one at this point with the 1v5. Now there's some backup though. Bones has now
30 seconds left.
Tried to gain some of that trust. Wingman looking to connect the spike. Try to get that flat down already though. Tons of players making their way over towards B. All they care about is just taking these eliminations. I mean, Spike's already down.
That is insane from Thinking Men, though, that they just left the Wingman by himself inside the A site thinking nobody was there. And they just fought Baby Door. That was insane.
They didn't think they would get punished. And listen, sometimes you need the ego to make plans like this work. Yeah, reform. Thinking Men, somehow a plan like that managed to work itself out. But now it's Jonah looking for some sort of defusal, not having any util to give themselves coverage. Knife brought out a bit too early. Didn't like that. They're still looking for a one-tap off reform. Could maybe possibly get it down halfway, but it's a close game.
Yo, shout out to Jonah using the MIBR Classic, though. I kind of like the color scheme that you have from that one, and the OD to Counter-Strike 1.6, 1.5. It's a nice little capsule there that MIBR thought out a lot here as they're building up. That said, back into this round, as we've just mentioned before, there was just so much gamble in terms of that Wingman plant towards the A site. Even though it got, maybe the idea was, let's push towards that door, let's punish towards that door side hit, and then if the Wingman gets shot out towards the A side, we might potentially still have power numbers towards A. Still works out. They get the pistol. They're looking to work for the control towards the C side. Dizzy does not find information as Thief is trying to find a timing. He has a sheriff. He tried to lean out, but then thought maybe somebody looking down that line of sight, and it's reformed with the outlaw. So it's good that Thief didn't peek out.
Positioning though coming through from reformed. Now KJ gone. They know there's absolutely no util that could really get in their way here, whether it be on C or B site. So feeling some sort of comfort from that.
There are 3 players from YFP inside C though, and they're potentially in set up for high lows for trades. Thinking Men are opening the door, forcing Penny to peek out. Yet for Thinking Men, okay, they smoked it out. They know there was 1 player towards C. They know at this point, because it's an eco, they potentially rotated a lot of players towards the C side. And when they open B, they notice a Sheriff and Penny. Therefore, you should have less players towards the A site. And they gambled for the rotate back over towards the A site. But the YFP are doing the same thing. They've now stacked 3 players just at the entrance of A. This might be a winning condition here for YFP.
Oh yeah, but Paranoia might actually do a lot of good in trying to clear these angles out. Screwface ready to push themselves a bit further, but of course, I mean, tons of utility being expended. Viper, Snake Bite down. They give some of that damage, but it doesn't matter. Thinking Men, the full unit of team members that they have, just tumbling down onto site.
That's the most annoying part. Whenever you have an opportunity to stack the right number of players towards the A side, you're having line of sight, you're having crosshair placement at headshot level to share some players run out of tree, and it's just a little guy running through and goes for a plant where it's like, oh, well, crap, I break my crosshair placement, I have to prevent plant, and then that's what I'm talking about. When you have a wingman planting, the rest could just flood behind it and work the picks. And Thinking Man had the power of numbers and also the weaponry to just cancel out YFP's attempt to deny the plant over at A. So this puts a very healthy buy that they currently have in their bonus for Thinking Man. They have 3 Bulldogs, an Outlaw, a Sheriff. Going for Orb Control gives Screwface also the Thrash that would allow for them to clear out the C site if they want to. This is going to allow for them to get a lot of information even if they don't detain.
I thought their form might have just been able to get 1, but Thief doing a good hold, at least getting 2 during that entry. So not being able to collect the spike, which is unfortunate.
That's a first slight mistake coming out from Reform, because when he's trying to clear out towards the C side, he doesn't put it at headshot level. It was just the elbow. It's going to be a 140 damage no matter what. And then Thief was just able to spray through the orb, and that denies the possibility of just flooding and taking over the C site with the ult.
But that was great. They just moved Thief's position, so they know there's no way Thief can absolutely be in that corner. Screwface feeling a little bit more comfortable, trying to push themselves on with a TP, which risky again, by the way. Just feeling confident in knowing the backside might be cleared off with a 4K from Thief to take in another Zenny Flawless.
That is huge for Thief too. A 4K, 2 away from an ult, but the confidence is what's most important. Trying to play the contact for Thinking Man to try to get the entry towards the C site. That was the game plan for the attack. If you're actually able to find contact, hopefully you could at least trade, pick up the orb, ult in while you have gained site control, and then try to play the try to play the pulse fight within the C site. But Thief just stood his ground on the top of the platform of that C site to get a double kill, and instantly an orb comes up on the defense, and Thinking Man has nowhere to go, except for the grave. So they're going to have to rethink that around, moving into round number 16. Heavy pressure towards the A side, and they're actually able to punish Bones through Hobbit Door.
Shadows traveling.
Yeah, I'd back up as well. Losing Bones is not feeling too good, especially with Jonas' utility already being set down. There's no fighting with that either. The smoke's making it quite difficult on the side of Thinking Man.
All right, at least give information that there's players on Heaven. Interesting that they still wanted to shoot it, but gave their positions away here on the top of the A site. This allows Wingman to move forward for a safe plant. Sees name to deny it.
Oh.
Still get it.
Yeah, just a tad bit too late though. Raze v Raze. Paint still having a paint shell to utilize here, which could clear out the angle though. Still by themselves. It's impossible. I mean, here Thinking Men tried to play together, but at the same time, the 1v1 still coming through on the side of YFP, though. Scrubble in a very good position. This is an off angle that nobody will expect. Exactly what they need, but slowly but surely, Viper coming back around from behind. Jonah might be that condition there, and it seems like not. Despite that, Scrubble still watching, and everybody else as well. Thinking Men up 9.
I actually like that little move from Scrubble, i.e. Anderson, when he actually paranoia, and that range that you have from that paranoia actually goes pretty far, further than I expected, because he throws it from the boxes right by the baby door. It reaches all the way up towards the staircase, and when you actually hit players with that flash, you could just TP on top of the boxes, and they'll never expect it if they get hit by it, because they're deafened by the paranoia. It was still hurt to TP because Physic was there at baby door to potentially try to get out, but he only hears a TP. He had no idea where Anderson went, and that maybe could be something that they'll know now that they've faced it after Anderson was able to move in with the rest of the team after the pulse plan and realizing where the shots were coming from.
Oh, once that wall goes down,
Spike dropped.
it'll give Bones a pretty good idea what to clear for, but another smoke getting ready to start to put itself down on site.
They've already used one smoke on the attack right now for Anderson over towards the staircase. Yet you don't really want to try to fight for this yet. They're just waiting here, trying to see if YFP are going to reaggress, and they are currently trying to do that. Paint Shell's going to force the players out, force out the showstopper, and it's combination with the fault line.
Yeah, but it's a one-on-one trade-off. You still manage to pick that up if you're Paint, which is completely fine. The condition here is that Thinking Men have those higher numbers. So it puts them in a better position, though. Bones is watching. He's ready to swing the angle, alongside Jonah. Yeah, there goes Bones. The trade-off potential was humongous there. But again, having to try to find it again, slowly working themselves up closer is Screwface. Although not finding too much potential with that play. Still gonna go to that A site to get that plant down, though.
That's important kills coming out from YFP. That's just standard stuff. Attack FPS, head-to-head. You have to win your duel when you're trying to play contact up for Thinking Man. And they lose both of their players. All ready to rotate from the back to the site.
Standing.
Nice shot by Bones.
Mosh pit still available, though. Might just be able to utilize that, and yep, vulnerability given away. They know nobody can be on the spike at this point.
One enemy
So just
remaining.
playing for the pings there, luckily enough, though. Very, very low. Playing for time, best bet. Knowing they're not there, trying to get the spray down straight through smoke, trusting in their ability, but it's still Bones to take away the one.
I was about to say, Screwface, keep your shirt on, because that gives you X-ray vision. How the hell did he get that kill? Onto Thief, rotating out from the right side of the A site until he gets that pick, almost actually contacted or connected some shots over onto Bones in that 1v1. But he sensed how under pressure he was because that smoke was going to dissipate very, very soon. So he tried to go for a gamble, swing out, jiggle out. I think his gun was sticking out, and Bones was able to win. There you go. The muzzle flash was shown there by Bones. That allows for him to win that 1v1. So a nice attempt. The YFP, they're able to keep the game very close right now, also breaking the economy once again of Thinking Man in round number 18. Lockdowns will be important on both sides now for Thinking Man to take space and for YFP to regain that space as they're leaning towards the seaside. You're already ready. I mean, look at Thief. He's already holding the corner, probably trying to insta-ult as soon as the attack ult comes out.
Oh, yeah. That might be the case, actually. Yeah. Thief is just backing themselves off, which is a tad bit surprising, giving Thinking Men so much space to just utilize with all the util that they have. At their availability. One more pick from Screwface as well, and then you've pretty much got yourself something else to play for there with the ultimate. We're still looking for it, though. Yep, it's already coming out, and tons detained. Not going to look for that as well. Though down towards the backside, Scrubble is going to be able to take the two and destroy the ultimate as well. Huge play from Thinking Men to keep themselves in the game, though. 3v4 situation. And a possibility for the retake, though. Time definitely of essence.
That was so good. Very well done by Paint. Even better for Thinking Men as a whole. All they had to do was try to delay as much as they could. I respected that you didn't want to use the lockdown right away by Thief because there was a possibility of doing a combination of a lockdown Nightfall to retake the site for YFP. But because you've delayed so much, you've added so much pressure towards that spawn, and on top of that, get a thrash off the plant and delayed YFP even more, it allowed here for that lurk to come across. I said it was Pain, but it wasn't. Pain was already fighting towards the spawn. It was somebody else that came towards that B-Link waterfall, got 2 kills, drops the lockdown, and then forces YFP to rotate out. So you took a little bit too much. You're trying to run too many protocols to try to go for the retake on that site that you forget of the lurk. And that's right here, Anderson getting these 2 kills and even getting met up by Paint right after on that waterfall. So very well done for Thinking Man. This forces the last timeout to come out for YFP. They won't have any left for the map. So Thinking Man's in a driver's seat. They're in the lead by 2. They also have 2 of their own timeouts for them to close out their map pick.
They've been pushing on the side of YFP. It's so interesting too. I don't know, with everything going on, I definitely feel like as the side switch, obviously there's a lot more aggression going through with the attacking side. I felt like it was more of like a mind game that was being played when we did get to see YFP playing more so on that attacking side. But now on the defense, it's been quite heavy on just looking for those first engagements, not really working out too well. I think Pain's been doing a pretty good job at holding back what YFP have to offer on the defense, so with that being said, kind of an ultimate there from Jonah that might keep the game at bay, at least this round at bay, for quite a while.
Yeah, it's tough, man, when you're playing against Thinking Man. The game plan that they had on defense was having so many players on one side of the map and then have Reform on the other end, offing and also using KJ util, and then you just use a bunch of utility to retake the sites. They worked out for a 6-6 line. This time around, you mentioned it. There's a lot of util. It's supposed to be more aggressive. They're able to be very aggressive right now for Thinking Men on the attack in the second half, which then puts YFP in a position of like, oh, well, if we're trying to play the retake, we don't really have a chance here to fight against them because they still have too much utility after the pulse plant because Wingman gets a free plant. And then if they're trying to aggress against Thinking Men, well, you have Vix with all that utility to flash and have so many flashes to work with, and they fight back. And even contact plays, as you can see right now, is working out in favor of Thinking Men.
Yeah, Penny did not care. Again, you got Physic alongside you to get some sort of refract potential, but you lose one on both sides. Now changing up the game plan just a bit for Thinking Men.
Shadows traveling.
Scout slowly here. They rescale, they TP across so that Anderson can fight behind the Dizzy.
30
And
seconds
that's a great
left.
way of working things. You're asking the question, not seeing the Viper. How did they scale up on the map? Those smokes are so close, so they could just take inch by inch and not go for a fast just run through. Everything is coming through contact, and it's working out until Penny is holding his B site. Showstopper.
Great. Showstopper comes out. Scrubble just ran into it. They were like, nah, I'm not leaving until I get the down.
One enemy
I don't care what
remaining.
happens to me.
Down
And I do appreciate the dedication. I mean, right there and then taking that out might have been the best bet to take that B site, but now it's up to Vix, left alone. Not really much to do. I mean, barely any seconds left, though. Thinking Men saw the vision. Unfortunately, got cut out pretty early during that 1v1 transaction there in the beginning of the round.
And my apologies. I think I said Paint there holding out towards this B side, but it's Penny playing the defense, of course. And that's just him doing heroic plays over on this B site. Because of this wall right here, there's that little gap so that Penny could focus to watch towards that B main. Getting that pick, allowing the Showstopper to be ready. He stopped really the timing and the contact play that Thinking Men were trying to do on this split towards that B site. And that Showstopper really stopped everything in terms of Thinking Men trying to take over that B site because there was pretty much no time left. You had to pivot towards a B split, and then you got denied right away. So very, very nicely done by heroic plays by Penny in that previous round, which keeps them sort of in the game. They're one round away, but they were able to win that round again because Penny just kind of popped off in that round. They still are falling behind a little bit here in terms of the macro play against Thinking Men. And they have to try to readjust to that early. And that one-way missed is just a full-out smoke towards the A main that Thinking Men already had a timing, crossed over it, almost got the punish there onto Bones. But thankfully, as he stays alive, this allows here YFP to just rethink the map, rethink this round. They're not pulling up this wall up yet because they're just letting Physics, play the contact from that Bahabit door towards this A-side cross.
Well, they've just let door open. Bones is watching for somebody to come through. Penny winning out that first-hand engagement again. Might actually be good for them as well. TP through from Bones. But then numbers advantage. Moving a bit more towards YFP. The retake definitely looking good. Tons to use here when it comes to Physic.
They're already positioned very well to go for a retake. And look at Thinking Man. They're actually thinned out across the post plan. Everybody playing individual positions. Comes out of a flash for a peek. Not affected. Pulse.
Too aggressive. There wasn't really a lot to play for there other than, okay, let me just pray that I can get a shot here.
Look at each other.
That's beautiful. Around the back, it doesn't matter. Thieves just like, screw face, you're gone. And now that 10-10 comes pretty evenly there. YFP, they've been countering Thinking Men like it's nothing.
First off, imagine Screwface hasn't crossed over, and then him and Thief are just walking in tandem back towards the A side. That would have been hilarious. But yes, to go back to what YFP is currently doing is that they're identifying this late lurk that consistently comes out of reform in the front B. This is the second time that Penny's able to shut that down. They're having less opportunities here for Thinking Men to get value out of that lurk in front of B main, but Thief did when YFP had the attack side. So now this timeout, the first timeout that comes out from Thinking Men is, are we going to try to reaggress against against Penny, who continues to take over this B site? And he's playing out in the open so far. You have so much utility from Thinking Men to try to take that down. But is that going to be your main game plan, just to take down Penny so you could split towards this B side? Because if you're looking over on the A side, it's not contested that much, right? You know, YFP are playing that a little bit more passively and are okay to play the retake towards the A site. So it might give you that opportunity to really try to take him down. I mean, you've seen a couple of rounds before they did that lineup from the Gecko Molly with the fault line to really try to get in the side on pistol. And this time it might work out because you don't really have that Omen playing towards that baby door to counter flash against your against the opponents of Thinking Man. But you could see it right now. Screwface is currently staring into B. I think they're actually trying to do that pistol round.
I think it might be good too. Even then, with the explosions onto the site that Thinking Man have gone for, they tend to get scared halfway through as util starts to present itself. Hopefully this might not be the case here. Paint, again, not feeling too confident pushing themselves forward, but then again, getting taken out as well. First engagement went out for the 3rd time in a row. And how this is going to work out in the future really just leads up to what Thinking Men want, and it seems like they want blood. First one down, Penny now looking for the next. Of course, to keep YFP in the game, and that just might be the case. YFP still keeping themselves pretty intact here with a 4v2 situation.
One enemy remaining.
Now even then with a blind peek through, playing the anti-flash to make sure there is some security there alongside Bones. And a right click to end it. That's disrespectful, but at the same time, well-deserved. YFP just really bringing in the rounds.
Yeah, you had a slight overcook with Thinking Men there, because if they actually wanted to keep holding W behind that first piece of util on that pistol round attempt that they did was with the fault line and the mosh pit, then Paint probably could have had an entrance towards that B site entry. But as his satchels limits himself at the entrance of that B site and there's no flash to follow through for him to cross that wall, Jonah's single wall that he did prevented Thinking Men from crossing B and crossing A on top of that and allowing YFP to open a door and just take down Paint through a paranoia. And again, we have the opportunity of seeing all 10 players, so it's just like, okay, well, it looked like it was a bad read from Thinking Men, but they didn't know how many players were stacked inside that B site, what they could have done more. They tried to fake that B site to pivot more towards A. But again, that util, this wall that keeps coming up on the A side, doesn't really give a chance here for Thinking Men to do that mid to B cross.
Okay, Paint constantly gets taken out on the entry, so I mean, he's able to clear up some space here regardless. Seems like that wasn't even the play that YFP wanted to go for. Anyways, they're not holding the site. They're waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And it might be just now. Already given away the location of where Paint is. Seems like here's Scrubble just looking for more. And Thinking Men, they've brought back some sense of security into their rounds. Bones left alone. They're feeling even better about it, just luring out these players to see if they can fight this. 9 bullets left. And a tank with a reload not really available. Not a lot of time to play for. Not only that, but tons of util just being thrown at them left and right, and damage, luckily enough, not being brought about. But then Vix's location given away. Yeah, this is literally just like, I feel like I would be in such a terrible mental state right now, having to play against this, but it's 3K from Bones. And trying to pick things up just ends it off. Doesn't get the defusal, but does end the round feeling pretty good about it.
That's all you wanted from Bones at that point at a 3 versus 1. You can even see when he's throwing that smoke, it's just, hey, come at me, bro. Try to overstay your welcome. Try to over peek, and I'll win that 1v1 against you. And it worked exactly off that, because I was laughing that I was shooting at the wingman because it's never gonna stun him. But shooting at the wingman forced the first player to swing out over here and allow for him to have 3 individual 1v1s to make it very expensive against Thinking Men. They had a flawless take towards the A site on the attack, yet they lose all of these players, putting them at a half buy only in round number 23, which could be pivotal right now for YFP to close out the first map. It was a huge string round that looked to be in favor of Thinking Man because they had a rolling thunder to play with on the post plant. And now they might even lose this one here.
Poison's off.
They've done a good job at just spraying the angle down to eliminate any pressure really being applied by YFP. But with that being said, still tons of util pressed down on Thief. By Thief. Keep this from coming. Paint is not going into that. They've pretty much just expended some sort of ultimate to be put onto the C site. So now they have to entry to allow Screwface that potential to regain that. Yeah. The Rolling Thunder being pushed back in the extremities. That's Paint's playing field. And are they going to go for it? So having tons to play for, and it's Thief to end that off. They could have gotten a free 2K if they had moved in a little bit quicker.
And the smoke doesn't save them to plant, so the wingman's down.
Yeah, they are in such a good position right now. I think they're down. Although, yeah, no util for anything. to be played for YFP. Yeah,
30
good smoke
seconds
though
left.
coming down from Scrubble.
She's still gunning for you.
At least Screwface is able to re-pick up the spike. Also, the thrash for a second time will detain one. Fault line comes in across. That slows things down so much right now. But Kemi's re-engaging. Showstopper out.
One enemy remaining.
Oh, somehow still takes out Screwface. Explosion by YFP. And you would think that it would have worked out for the best, obviously, with Screwface bringing out the thrash. And a beautiful fault line from Vix, but that does not matter when it comes to YFP.
And that was the winning condition I think Thinking Men wanted on that previous round, to keep that rolling thunder, to guarantee the round should they lose some bodies into that A side post plant. This time towards C, just simple utility. A slight mistake with smoke not covering the wingmen on a plant made it very costly for Thinking Men to try to retake that spike the plant down, because that just allowed YFP to just get ready on the tap to fight back. So they gave Thinking Men no choice but to have to fight back towards the waterfall, and they got punished because of that. Great job once again by Penny to open things up. Dones and Penny at the top. And you have now a broken buy for Thinking Men. Stingers. He's getting some information. Flash coming out. Paint gets an opener. And this might be doable.
Not even allowing Thinking Men to have the potential to just walk themselves onto the site, which is great defense from YFP, though. Physics. Oh, just actually waiting here for Reform to put down the lockdown. Yeah, backing off. Best thing they can do, but also getting ready to put down that Nightfall.
But it's so long, though. This Nightfall is going to come out. Now the lockdown's gone, and Physics running in the site with 2 pings.
They're so lucky to get a shot like that one as well. Realistically, Scrubble had the best bet on that, but Physics still left alive. They've given away the location with the tethers alone. And even then, down towards the backside, they know they're underneath. Penny, not prepared for it, but still manages to find the shot.
One enemy
His
remaining.
24 health. Down spike, not planted just yet, but it's a victory coming through from YFP. And Thinking Men, they fought hard, but unfortunately, it just doesn't go that way.
They fought hard and potentially thought too hard on how they wanted to cook a couple of those rounds here on the attack. But again, that's the beauty right now of YFP. We've mentioned at the beginning of this series, they are the type of team that are in the lab. They're trying to redefine the meta and a different type of play style going in from map to map. So now you see that the reason why they wanted to leave Lotus in here, it's because they've also been studying tape of what Thinking Men has been doing with this composition, and were able to fight back some very good retakes in the end for YFP.
Yeah, biggest thing too. It was the consistent shutdowns that we got to see down in those first engagements, and I think YFP definitely did a better job on the defensive side than they did on the attack. There was a lot less stress on there, mostly because they had more control of what to do with the sites, how they could control the sites and whatnot. Of course, though, a very good game coming through from Thinking Men. I think with that not necessarily being that first map pick for them, it was a pretty good game to play. I am interested for that second map, how well and how comfortable they're going to be with a loss coming through firsthand.
Yep. And that's going to be happening after the break, so don't go anywhere.